Hey you guys, welcome to Steele Wars. I'm comedian Steele Saunders and I do love Star Wars, and each week we talk to someone of interest about it, and this week we are talking to 3 people of interest about Season 1, Chapter 1 of The Mandalorian. Welcome. Robbo, how you doing, Robbo? From the Robbo
I'm good.
Report.
How are you doing, Steele?
I'm good. Me and Robbo have been having very terse interactions on before we got started. This one, you can watch this on YouTube, except you can't see Robbo. You can just see his desktop, which is a very scantily clad Skeletor lying on a Battle Cat rug, which I kind of imagine that's how Robbo's dressed. Also, from the Canto Bite Dispatch, our frequent guest, it's Emily Lind.
Hello.
And from Rogue One and Blue Harvest, it's Hawes Burkhardt. How you doing, buddy?
How's it going, guys?
It's going fantastic. It's I've been left by this first episode, and spoiler alert, everyone. I guess maybe if you are waiting out, should we just give our initial off the cuff response, or not off the cuff? I want to do it in the how we did the survey today. Did you guys see that? The on Twitter.
Oh, I think I'm still might have the Mandalorian hashtag muted.
That's a wise thing. Wait there, I'll get it up. So, The Mandalorian Chapter 1. All the votes are in. The answers were: I was disappointed, it was decent, pretty impressed, or blown away. Emily, where do you hit?
Blown away.
Hawes.
Blown away. Blown away.
The far harder to please Robbo.
What was the one right underneath blown away?
Pretty impressed.
That one.
Oh, that's not bad. Wow.
That's high praise from Robbo.
God, Favreau's sleeping well tonight. I was at blown away. I like. We'll just jump into spoiler territory. We won't mess about. But I thought it was like I was enjoying it as like a pretty good Star Wars show. But I wasn't like totally into it unknowingly until the reveal at the end with Baby Yoda. Yoda Jr. Yoju. Can we call him Yoju?
Absolutely not.
You can.
Thank you. Okay. I'll stick with it. Everyone else doesn't seem that... I think it works. But anyway, until then, when it brought in that sort of such an interesting way of bringing in the Force... That was when I was like, I didn't realize the whole episode I was enjoying it, but I don't think I was fully connecting because of, like, it was just missing that ingredient of the Force. Emily, how did it all sort of connect to you?
I mean, I was in from cold open, totally got me. I was in love with it. I really like Westerns and things that play with Westerns. So having a scene that was absolutely straight out of a Western. And then how do you not like Baby Yoda?
Yoju.
No, I'm not saying that.
Fine. Anyway, how do you not like Baby Yoda, Robbo? Is there a way? If there's a way, I'm sure you could find it.
I mean, I don't think it's I mean, if you really don't want to see Yoda demystified any more than he already has been, I mean, it's kind of too late for that, I guess. Like, you've already seen like his office. Like, it's not much more you can do to Yoda to like demystify him. It's like, this is where Yoda works. Inbox here, outbox there.
Where was
Yoda
his
hates
office?
Mondays. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, but it's...
Where was his office?
I liked it. Like, I thought...
Robbo, where was his office?
We didn't see his office? What was one of the, like, barely decorated rooms he was walking around in the prequels? Like, was it one of those his office, right?
I don't know. They're just rooms. What? He's not allowed to have rooms. Did seeing a room is that wrecked your childhood?
I didn't say that. Don't put words in my mouth, Steele.
I won't. I won't. Hawes.
No, I mean, okay, sorry. Go ahead. Pause.
Man, it's really weird watching you guys bicker with a picture of sexy Skeletor, and just imagine that's who's arguing with Steel. Like, I'm gonna sleep well tonight. I'll tell you that.
All right. Can I ask, Robbo? Can your nitpicking be about the actual show we're talking about, and not bring up grudges you have against 15-year-old movies?
You asked me a hypothetical. You didn't ask me what I actually thought. So what I actually think is I thought it was cool. Like I didn't really have any problem with it. Like I thought it was really cute looking. I loved the details of the Mando like putting out his finger. Like that's the thing that only somebody who really likes Little Bitties does. You know, it was really cool. It was like a good character moment for the guy that we didn't get to see his face. It's about as much personality as you're going to get to see, right? And as far as like the demystifying Yoda thing, I don't really know whether it's a problem anymore for the reasons I just gave. But also, like my only problem with it was not for me, but my son after watching it was like, so this must be like 900 years before Star Wars, because he naturally assumed that was actually Baby Yoda. And why wouldn't he? For a kid, why wouldn't you? Or for like a person who's not super dialed into Star Wars, like why wouldn't you assume that? It never really tells you. The show doesn't.
Yeah, what do you make of that? Like I complained about it with Rogue One, that it didn't give you that, the timestamp at the front, and this one just goes straight into it. What do you reckon, Hawes? Do we sort of need there's sort of this like assumed someone's looked up the timeline before it starts? Like,
I think it could, whether through like some sort of something on screen or through some bit of dialogue, could have at some point established that for people. I think that would have been helpful. Like it could have just as easily been in the conversation between Carl Weathers and the Mandalorian, where he's like, that's all the bounties we have or whatever. And he's like, or when he tries to give him the Imperial credits even, and he's like, the Empire's gone, right? Like they could have worked some bit of dialogue into there to give you a timestamp, I think. And my other smallish complaint was I would really like a Rogue One style planet briefing. You know what I mean? Like in Rogue One, they put the name of the planet and stuff down in the corner, so you would know when it changed locations. And I'm a little confused about how many actual planets were in this episode. So, like, they could have maybe made that a little more clear.
Is it 3?
It's either 3 or 4. Is the place where he goes, where all the other Mandos hanging out, is that a different planet?
No, it's in the same one. I thought so too at first. Yeah.
Okay.
It's in the same one where Werner Herzog is in Space Carl Weathers.
Okay. Well, then, that's fair enough. But I honestly, I've watched it a few times now, and that was never something that I came away being like, yeah, I know that for sure,
Yeah, and I feel like those second 2 planets are not that dissimilar.
The one where he goes to where his mission is, right?
Yeah.
And the one, well, yeah, it's kind of like one's just a little darker in tone. Like the ground is a little darker, but it's like busted up lava instead of like busted up craggy sand dunes and stuff.
I mean, it's indistinguishable from Jeddah. It's got a lot of the same like costumes on the people who are walking around in the streets, but if they make it too different than what we're used to, it looks just sort of disorienting. So I don't know what they're supposed to do there other than give us a title. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that, it even bothers me. It's just the Star Wars nerd in me wants to know what planets those are.
I think we're only told the name of the third one, right?
Do they say it?
I don't think they say it. I think it's the only one that's been like published or made official.
Oh, really? I haven't even seen that.
I didn't know that.
Going right up to the front of the episode, what did you guys think? Robbo, you've always got feelings about this sort of stuff, about that logo, about the flashing with all the faces, and then it said Star Wars. If that showed up at the start of the film, I'd be like, like, does anyone know anything about that? Do you like that one, Robbo, or don't care?
I mean, it looks pretty like unimpressive to me. I did notice that they changed the Star Wars font very slightly for the first time in I don't know how many years. Anybody else spot that?
Not me.
No.
Yeah, is it when the letters meet up, they're on angles?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the T and the A in Star, the T is at an angle to match the angle of the A. I think that was actually a really kind of, I don't know whether it was necessary, but I think that was an interesting thing to do. It doesn't look bad. It looks pretty good. I don't know but nobody notices, so it doesn't actually matter.
It looks like that sort of not your daddy's Star Wars font that they used a lot of the time when The Force Awakens was coming out in like press. I don't know. There was this other like sort of like modernized Star Wars lettering. Do you remember that, Horse?
Vaguely. I don't know. Like you said, if they put that in front of one of the movies, like if that was in front of Rogue One or Solo, I don't think I would have liked it. But for some reason, in front of The Mandalorian, I didn't think it was that bad. I don't know why, but it was probably, if I'm being completely honest, the utter excitement that I was finally watching The Mandalorian. So they could have put anything up there.
Emily, thoughts? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
I thought it was fine. I think it would be weird to see in front of the movies in the theater just because it'd be weird to see something different in front of the movies. But for a TV show, I'm perfectly fine with it. It looks all right.
But it would wreck your in-cinema pacing of your excitement. Like if the Lucasfilm logo came up and then it was like, hey, here's 15 seconds of this sweet animated GIF, like helmets. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it's like change. I don't know. But then on the flip side, everyone's so happy about the 21st Century Fox being at the start of all the films. And I'm just like, Yeah. Anyone care about that?
No.
It doesn't really affect me whether it's there or not. I'm not there for the 20th Century Fox logo. I have nostalgia for it, obviously, but it has not bothered me not being there, since The Force Awakens. Not one bit.
Yeah, interesting trivia that may not be true. I think that John Williams actually went ahead and recorded a new version of that fanfare, the classic 20th Century Fox fanfare for the movie, and that's been used ever since. And that might be why it appears on a lot of the soundtrack albums, which may be why people are extra nostalgic about it.
Yeah, because it is on the CD, which, they should also have like the copyright warning and, all that stuff on the CD as well. That'd be pretty sweet. That opening scene I thought was pretty brilliant. Like it was dripping with like Western cliches, but it sort of told the random person clicking what you're like. It's like you're watching a Western with a Star Wars license in a way. And it sort of, gave you a vibe about the guy and stuff. And that door, way better than the bar swinging like in the old Western films, like that, how they got those swinging doors, which do nothing. They don't even go.
You can't cut somebody in half with them.
No, at worst, it'll smack you on the ass, like if you're not paying attention. I can picture that happening to me as like an old West nerd. Like,
I think that's where the term "don't let the door hit you on the way out" came from.
It must be.
Because most other doors, it's not a concern.
No, that's true.
What did you think of the blue dude?
I liked him. Horatio Sands.
Yeah.
I can't believe that was him. Did anybody know that was for sure that was him just by seeing it or hearing it?
No, I didn't realize until I saw the credits.
It didn't sound like him to me.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought they did a good job with his humor and stuff. Like, I want to know why they want his glands. What's up with that dude's glands?
They have a sweet musk, apparently.
Alrighty.
What do people do with it?
Make cologne.
Yeah, I didn't really think about what they did with it. I was sort of just thinking, you know, people with whale tusks and all that sort of stuff. I don't really know this actor where everyone seems to know him. What's he from?
He was on SNL for like 20 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's famous for basically being the only person who might ruin as many sketches as Jimmy Fallon. I don't mean ruin like in like he's really funny, but he cannot keep a straight face. Yeah, he what do they call it in the biz, Steele, when you can't when you laugh on stage and you're not supposed to? What's that called?
I don't know. Breaking the fourth wall.
Corpsing. He
Losing
corpses.
camera. Yeah, okay. See, you're Dr. Show Business. You are Dr. Show Business. I'm not sure if I like his voice or hate it. It sort of made me feel like I was watching an episode of Deep Space Nine.
It looked very Star Trek-y.
It is more of a Star Trek alien design, and I don't know why I think that.
It's because his voice has no effect on it, right?
Yeah. It was just like American.
Yeah, it's like in Star Wars, like traditionally, not always. I guarantee you it's not always, because I'm always going to be wrong when I say always. But it's
not always.
It's like usually if somebody doesn't speak with like a voice, like a ring modulator filtered over their voice or something like that, then it's going to be like an alien language partially. Like Bib Fortuna, like he speaks some English, but also like some Huttese or whatever it is. And then that helps. Like, but this guy just like he had no accent, nothing.
Yeah, he just went to Starbucks and ordered a coffee.
Yeah. You know, if Uncle George was behind this, it would have some like very racially insensitive accent there. That would.
But I bet you the whole thing about him evacuating his thorax would have still been in there.
Oh, he would have heard it. He wouldn't have faked it. He would have actually done it.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, Emily, you watch probably more show. You're a big Deadwood fan, right?
Yes.
Okay. Are you like? Is there something I'm missing about what his plan was when he goes down to the hull of the ship? Does he have some kind of like? Is there some kind of like old timey westerny escape plan? Because it looks to me like he somehow knows the combination to the gun locker. He opens it up, then he closes it, and then he wanders around a bit. Like, what did you? Am I alone? Like, I thought like for sure what he's going to do is he's going to grab a gun and like start like plotting an ambush immediately to draw like to build up tension. That seemed to me like what like if like Clint Eastwood were going to bring like in Eli Wallach or somebody. That's what Eli Wallach would do.
I mean, I'm trying to think of a Deadwood equivalent here, and I can't quite think of the one. But I thought that was really an interesting choice, actually, and I liked it. Like you, I thought when he opened the guns, I thought, okay, well, he's going to take a weapon, and then we're going to get more bloodshed. I think maybe he was looking for an in to talk him out of it. To talk him into letting him go.
So, like he goes down there and finds like a photo of his little helmeted kids.
Yeah, he's just trying to figure out who this guy is.
Oh, Family Man. Yeah, sorry.
He seems sort of maybe like a con man or something. That was my guess on what his crime probably was.
Yeah, I think it was sort of his character like wanted to look for a way out. But then when he saw the gun thing, he's like he's not that sort of criminal. Like whatever his crime was very like placid and con man-y or, something. He owes someone money for like gambling or something. But he was sort of wanted to get a way out, but he's not the sort of person that's gonna like try to fight a bounty hunter. I don't think he had a plan except to try look around and hopefully something opens up. And the only thing down there was a bathroom. But when he was flicking through the carbonite things, I was like, oh, this is some good Star Wars action that I never knew I desperately wanted. I just love all that sort of in-universe. There were so many like delightful little Star Wars treats in it. But does that sort of click with you, Robbo? Why he didn't grab the blasters and stuff?
No, like this is I think I should talk about this later, not right now, but I think there's like some weird like situations where an experienced director would have said like, this is what you're thinking right now. This is what you're doing. You can like, it would tell the actor to like, look, because if he's like, oh, I can't use a gun, he'd like do like a face, like he'd like reach for it and then be like, I can't do that. Like, even though I'm probably going to die if I don't, like, I can't do it. There's no face. He just kind of like, and then he like blip, 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 open up, looks at the guns, blip, 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 closes, walks around. There's like no, you got to tell the actor what to do.
I think there was a bit of a face when he saw the guns.
Maybe there was. Maybe, I mean, I just didn't. I was expecting something a little bit more from the Fish Man, but I don't know.
I just reckon Robbo is commencing his anti-Filoni campaign.
We'll talk about it later.
I did like just jumping back that they cut away for the guy getting cut in half. Like, I'm sure there would have been a temptation to show some gory, like, good, but I'm glad they sort of, you know, they made it a little bit like, you know what happens, but we don't have to show you. I don't need to see all that stuff.
They do show you the bottom half of his body kind of out of focus, like falling off. Like, it's there.
Yeah, but it's not like this graphic Game of Thrones.
There's no gore.
Yeah, it's like the, you know, like Ponda Baba.
I was expecting a terrible Roger Moore-esque quip about the door right after that, and they didn't get it. And I was like, okay, all right, you've won my respect. Because he could easily like, guys, I told you to check that door, get that door fixed, or something stupid like that. They didn't.
Doors jammed. What about that? What's that character called? The Gardenian? Is it?
Garandan. Garandan? I think it's Garandan.
But I haven't thought about him for years. And the long nose guy, the anteater guy who plays the flute with his nose. Yeah, he's got Uber on his flute. It's amazing.
What kind of business is that guy running? Like, is it like a cab stand? And if so, why? Because that seems to be the only like 3 huts on the entire planet. Like, where, like, why are people parking out? He's like, I need to go to the yard. It's like, so why? It's like a part of the grand Star Wars tradition now since Rogue One of parking really far away from where you need to go. It's like, what's the deal? Like, why do you...
Robbo, I tell you, Ben Mendelsohn, when he came to my house, he said he did the long walk for effect. That's what he told me when he came around. Yeah,
in this case, it was like, okay, we're not going to park by the town. We're going to park out on the like ice field where the walrus snakes are.
I felt like sort of it was all ice though, and maybe it's not safe to park your big old ships where the bar is.
Yeah,
so you can have like a land speeder. Yeah.
I mean, you know, like we actually dealt with an issue like this in Blue Harvest Adventures.
Oh,
Pause. Do you remember?
That was his plug, not mine, my man.
I'm gonna do it.
But this is Robbo's basis for all his critique. Is like I do better sound effects than this. I run better things than this.
No, I did exactly the same thing for exactly the same reason. Is what I'm gonna say. Is like it's more interesting. It's like you got to get to your ship, but you want something exciting to happen.
Right.
Like, okay, so you park far away, and then you have exciting stuff happen on the way. Like, it doesn't really. That's the real reason. It's just to be cool, and it was cool, right?
I think so. big ice walrus and Brian Posehn.
Right. Mr. Show's very own. Hey, Hawes, do you have any other internet things going on your computer? Just you're coming off very pixelated to me.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, it's just that sweet Alabama upload.
Yeah.
That first speeder at the Uber stand, that had me a bit worried. It was a bit Attack of the Speeder.
Yeah, that was, in my opinion, like the weakest moment of CG in the first episode was that first speeder that showed up. And like, I had this crazy theory in my head that it has something to do with that shade of yellow, because it's the same shade of yellow as like the Naboo starfighters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they also don't look so great in CG.
But
I wonder why that is.
I like that the updated speeder's got a droid in it now. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like Luke just had the one where he had to have the protocol droid just drive. But the built-in one, sweet action. And then you get the first hint of his anti-droid rhetoric.
Yep.
So Brian Pro saying, when the he got eaten by that
Walrus snake.
thank you. And then the cracks started going towards the screen, like along towards the ship. I could sort of see the special effects budget like tally up, like go higher. Like, as the crack got, I was like, it's like 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. Then he comes out and it's like $2 million. I was, I wonder if they put a lot more of that sort of stuff in the first episode and the other ones will be a bit more subdued. But I sort of thought that I wasn't expecting it to be that, I don't know, all-encompassing with like creature effects like that. Did that delight you, Emily?
I really liked it. I wasn't like you. I sort of wasn't expecting anything that big. Especially not. I mean, I guess it makes sense really that you want that in your first episode to sort of show, hey, we're making a big Star Wars show and we spend a lot of money on it. But I was expecting if we were ever going to get that, it'd be later on, big climactic moment, not here's the thing that happens as an inciting incident for a little bit and then it's never going to be referred to again because it's not even important at all.
And then Hawes, for Boba Fett fans, which you are, a magic moment with the escape.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't... It's kind of tough saying it, but, like, the first whole section of this the show made him way more badass than Boba Fett. Like, they sort of, like, really pushed it over the... You know what I mean? Like, Boba Fett doesn't do much in those original trilogy movies.
What I liked about how they made him, though, like later on, was he wasn't the, like, I can do anything superhero. Like, he took the IG-11's help. Like, he sort of...
Yeah, and he wasn't as... I was a little worried that he was going to be, like, video game serious the whole time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say this really quickly because I'm more curious what Hawes, the Boba Fett super fan, has to say about it. But like that was the big turning point for me is when he meets Ugnaught McNulty, or Ugnulty as he's been referred to by someone other than me. But is that like it changes everything because you see him get like punked on by that like half a what is it, like half a dewback thing,
Blurg.
Yeah. And when you see that, it's like, oh, like he tries to use his flamethrower for some reason, but it's too late. His arm is already in its mouth, and then he's got like kind of this like weird argument with the Ugnaught, and he kind of gets talked into, well, you got to learn how to ride this monster. Why? Because you got to. I'll take a speeder. No, your ancestors used to ride monsters. Okay, and then you see him get bucked off the. I don't know. I just thought it was like it made him a lot more. That's when I really got my attention. Is like, oh, this is interesting. I want to know what this guy does. Like, so is that the same or?
Yeah, and like one of my big concerns going into this was the same concern I had with the like proposed Boba Fett movie. Is it would just be kind of like the ultimate bro Star Wars movie. Whereas I'm just serious. There's nothing funny about this character. You know what I mean? It's just all dark and I'm chasing folks. And it started off a little bit that, but like it's like the tone of the show slowly warmed up and became a little more lighthearted as it went on, and then like I feel like by the time the big final battle happens, it's like pure Star Wars fun. It's a dude in cool looking armor, my favorite looking armor, like doing a bunch of cool stuff with an IG droid. Like, it was so much fun by the end. Like, I loved it as a whole experience, but like the way it ramped up into the end really pushed it over the edge for me.
I found the tone like surprisingly light. I thought it was going to be, I guess, like you, Hawes, far more brooding. Like, did you have, like, how was your read on it, Emily? were you surprised with sort of how delightful it was?
Yeah, I was also, I mean, one of the things I was surprised by was how much the Mandalorian spoke.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was going to be a much more tack turn. And basically, I thought the whole thing was going to be like that opening scene.
Same.
And I'm glad that it wasn't. I don't know that I would have thought going in that I wanted, okay, let's hear him talk a whole bunch and make some jokes and stuff. But I ended up really digging it. I think they did a good job with it. I think it makes him a much more interesting character. And also, I mean, he's the lead on the show. You have to like him. And this goes a long way to that.
Can I ask a quick question of you guys? Did the fact that he was helmeted the whole time, did that bother y'all ever? Because I know that was one of the things people always said about, like, the idea of a Boba Fett movie is like, oh, is he just going to be in the helmet the whole time? Like, how can you emote and act and stuff in a helmet without it looking goofy? It didn't bother me. I never noticed it once, but I was wondering if that was a thing for anybody else.
Is it really?
Oh,
you go, Emily.
Okay, I was perfectly fine with it in this 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Pedro's got a really emotive voice, so that works. And you can see with the Baby Yoda scene, you can do emotional stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like having the finger come out, and like that was a really good emotive moment. When we bring in other characters and he's interacting with Cara Dune, or if he has more with Werner, or when Moff Gideon comes in, I can see that being a problem when there's a bit more interpersonal, not just fighting things.
Steele, what were you going to say before I chime in?
You go. I think Emily covered it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it wasn't so much the helmet that threw me off at the beginning. It was the fact that there's no, like, exposition character. That, like, you expect when Space Horatio Sands is talking to him that you're going to get, like, some kind of information, because that's how, like, you know, so Star Wars, the motion picture, right, the original, like, you get all your information by the characters who don't know what's going on. Like, right, like, Luke is asking, like, what's that thing? And then, like, Han, like, slaps his hand away. And it's like, tells it, like, you know, explains to you what hyperspace is. You don't know that. And so that's how you do it normally when you're, you know, that's how most movies would do it, is you have, like, there's the Sherlock Holmes who knows everything, and there's the Watson who is asking the questions. And there wasn't that. And once you introduce Ugnaughty in IG-88 or whatever he is, and then it becomes more interesting to me, because it's like, okay, you're learning a little bit more. Or when he's talking, like, there's a really weird thing where they're talking about, like, chain codes, like, what's a chain code? And then like, Werner Herzog, I can give you the last 4 digits. And he said, you can only tell me how old they are, which means, like, a chain code is what exactly? Like, you'd expect there to be, like, some, like, sassy droid who'd be like, you know, I don't understand this. Explain it to me, Mandalorian. But there wasn't. And I think once he's interacting with people, I felt like it was much more easy to follow. But I don't know, maybe that's just me, but
I sort of found the chain code thing pretty easy. Like, I don't know what it is, but all I need to know that is the bounty's 50 years old. And I sort of thought Blue Man did a fair bit of exposition with his like it was sort of constantly the things he was asking and saying was sort of setting up the character. But
yeah, like you never take your helmet off. Is that true? That kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I thought that was pretty good. I still just find him with his American accent and blue skin, like I was just watching this bizarre dream that there was a Star Wars TV show. Like it just seems so Star Wars TV show.
So, I was going to bed on Monday night, and I planned on getting up really early, like 5:30 or so, to try and watch it before I had to get ready for work. And just as I was getting in bed, people on Twitter were like, The Mandalorian is up if you have the app. So I jumped on, and sure enough, it was there. So instead of getting up early, I stayed up and watched it late. And the whole next day, I think I said this to you, Steele, like, it kind of didn't feel real. I was like, did I really watch that? Was that a dream? Did I really see a baby Yoda and a Mandalorian?
Hoss, can I ask you a question? Like,
sure.
You've read like all the Boba Fett like books and comics and stuff, right? Like,
I don't know that I could say all of them. I mean, I've read a lot of them.
Horse, are you Alabama's biggest Star Wars fan?
Whose?
Alabama's
biggest Star Wars fan?
No, I just say it when it's like, you've read, like, people that they go, he's got every Star Wars toy. He's read everything.
I don't know that I've read them all, but I have read a lot.
Like, so my understanding is that there's some kind of like shift in the lore that happens even like before the buyout. Like, does this like do anything to repair that, or?
So, before the Clone Wars came out, we were all just sort of under the assumption that Boba Fett and Jango Fett were Mandalorians, right? And then when they start working the Mandalorians into the Clone Wars, they established that he's not. And it was always kind of like a debate because the person who says that is not necessarily the most trustworthy person in the show.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's been further clarification. Like, there was a Scum and Villainy guidebook that came out from Pablo Hidalgo, and it's reiterated there. And they've said it in interviews leading up to this and stuff. So this made it didn't deal with Boba Fett and Jango Fett at all. So
it had the weird dinosaur skull thing, right? That's on
the
Boba Fett's armor.
Right, and that's the Mythosaur, and that's what Nick Nolte refers to. He's like, the ancient Mandalorians rode the great Mythosaur. Clearly, you could ride a blurg, or whatever it is he says. Like, that's what that skull is. It's a Mythosaur skull.
Nick Nolte, if you're listening and you need an understudy,
I'll be an Ugnaught.
That was actually pretty exceptional.
Really good. That was actually more Nick Nolte than the voice that we heard. Like, when I was listening to it, I was like, oh, it's kind of toned down Nick Nolte, I guess. Yeah. That was pure. That was full Nolte.
Thank you.
Hey, so you know how he gives him Imperial credits and he's like, nah, dog, the Empire's done. Did he not want to use them because he's anti-Empire or because the money's worth nothing?
I think it's because, okay, so you remember in The Phantom Menace when they try to use Republic credits?
Yeah, that's how I sort of took it. But then I listened to a podcast today and they were like saying that establishes that he doesn't want to support the Empire. And I was like, I thought it establishes that the Imperial currency is worth nothing.
Werner Herzog has a giant Imperial pendant on his chest, and he has no problem taking a job from him.
Good.
And he's got stormtroopers there, so I don't think so.
My understanding is that the reason why the Imperials have all that special Mando steel is because they got it from the Mandos after they ransacked their planet.
Right. They mention it. The Purge. This came from the Purge.
Which is why I thought, like, when Werner Herzog says, I think it should go back to the Mandalorians where it rightfully belongs, it's like kind of like he's throwing him a bone. And although you can't see his face, it looks like he kind of like stops for a second and he like looks like, this guy, like, you're feeding me a lot. You're selling me a bill of goods here. I don't trust you.
I don't think the credits thing establishes that he's anti-Empire, because he follows it up with, haven't you heard the Empire's gone? I think it's more of a there's not people that accept that currency. And man, that Mon Calamari currency looked neat.
Looked like hotel soaps.
Yes, it did. Like shimmery ones.
You just picture Carl Weathers from like Arrested Development. I have some hotel soaps here for you. It's like, it's perfectly in character with that.
Yeah, you get some of that Mon Cal currency and some water. You've got a lather going.
But what's interesting is like, okay, so Mon Cal currency makes sense. Like it's worth more than Imperial script now because the Empire no longer can like the Imperial Fort Knox like no longer exists to like back up their notes or whatever. And the Mon Cals were in with the rebellion, so they must have like power. But wouldn't there be like New Republic script or something? So like, and if anybody would be using it, wouldn't the Mon Cals be signed on to that monetary system? Interesting. Trouble in Paradise?
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah. Once again, to reference one of the movies, like, in Solo, when they're playing Sabacc, there's so many different types of currencies on that table. So, like, it's kind of established in the Star Wars universe that there's a ton of different currencies, but it doesn't, like it doesn't make sense. If you're a planet under the Republic, wouldn't you have some sort of standardized currency?
I mean, in this case, they're out of ways.
Right.
And like they're not top priority in the currency exchange, I would imagine. And so I think, I mean, the Mon Calamari stuff could just be because that's what everybody had a bunch of different stuff. They've been trading around for years. And that kind of change takes a ton of time, especially if you're an outer rim planet and nobody cares about you. So of course you're just going to use the stuff that, I mean, especially if you're like bounty hunter guys dealing with not so nice people a lot. I think you're not going to have super official currency right away.
Yeah, and it's a safe bet to say that the planets that they're dealing with in The Mandalorian so far are not part of the New Republic. I mean, there's like Imperial remnant dudes on them and stuff, so.
It's true. I mean, they are kind of hidden. They have like the Jabba like crime bot manning the door. So apparently that's the one you get if you're going to do that. There's only one in the entire galaxy.
That was sick, Robbo. Don't.
Yeah, and think about it. It's like the Ring doorbell. Everybody has those nowadays. You don't go up to somebody's house and you're like, another Ring doorbell? Get a fancier doorbell.
What is this ding dong shit? Like, what is that? You just everybody's just ding dong now. No, I mean, what was I gonna say? Like, yeah, of course. Like, if the rebellion wins, like, it's not like they're the rebellion. They're not gonna just automatically say we conquered the Empire, therefore all Imperial worlds are ours now, because they probably couldn't, but they wouldn't want to either. It would be like if you wanted to join the New Republic, you could, but you don't have to. They can't force it, right? So I guess that does make sense. And also, like, Emily, like, in what most Westerns take place, like, pretty close to the Mexican border, if not south of the border. So, in, like, at various, like, before or after, like, the Mexican Revolution and all that. So, like, there were probably, I can't remember any particular movie, but I'm guessing that there's situations where people are like, oh, no, I want, Spanish pieces of 8 or whatever. I can't remember. That's in pirate movies, but like that was like a thing too. Or like, I know there's movies where they're like, I've got Confederate dollars. Like, oh yeah, man, listen, let me tell you something about that.
All right. What about this? When he was talking to Carl Weathers, and I like referring to everyone by their actor name or the characters, like that species, they're the Yoda. All right, that's how I.
Yeah.
They're prune faces, they're squid heads, they're Yodas. But was Carl Weathers going to offer him the special job if he took the other jobs, or did he know he was not going to take the other jobs? Like, do you know what I mean? Because it's sort of like, he gives him all these other ones, and he says, "I'll take them all," and he goes, "Oh no, we've got to share them around. You can have one."
I think what it was supposed to be my guess is that the writer just didn't do a good enough job explaining it, or the director didn't do enough good enough job explaining the acts.
Again with the Filoni.
Look, that was weird. Like, Carl Weathers doesn't even like blink between those two things. Like, well, I do have one other thing, It's like, you think like there should be like a hesitation. Like, I don't want to give this to you because I need you to do other bounties. Like, you're a good helper, and I don't want you to go here and do this thing where people just keep dying. But it doesn't look like that. It looks like I'm just holding out on you because whatever. Like,
well, it could very well be that he's holding out on him so he'll take this job. Like, it's not, like, he probably has the Mandalorian in mind for this job, and he's kind of just, because it doesn't seem like he jumps at the idea of this weird under the table bounty, and then later it's established that there's another bounty on this bounty, so it seems like the Bounty Guild also has this, but it's under like a strict kill order.
Yeah. And so
ahead.
there's definitely, multiple people after the Yoda baby.
Right.
And what is, I don't know, this is something that's always been with Star Wars, but I think especially with the time period we are in now, which is what exactly an official bounty is, and what's like, go kidnap this baby or go kill this baby.
Right. And honestly, when he kept telling them it was bail jumpers, I was like, oh, so they're basically like Space Dog the Bounty Hunter. Because that's what Dog the Bounty Hunter was always going after. Dudes that skip bail.
Yeah, that would be like almost that just tells me like somebody looked up like Googled like, what do bounty hunters do?
Right.
And it's like, oh, they mostly go after bail jumpers. But it's also like, I looked at after like after a couple of viewings, I was like, well, that is kind of telling you something, because it's like, well, there's some kind of justice system out there. Like, it's not totally lawless, unless they're all like local systems who are going like, like somebody jumped their bail on, like Dantooine or whatever, and they're wanted by the Dantooine Municipal Police or something like that. But, it could be but there's some law and order out there, or else this guy would be out of work.
Okay, what about... All right, so the Mandalorian's complaining that he can barely make a profit. Like, he's sort of like, oh, fuel won't cover that.
Mm-hmm.
Then when he goes to see Werner says that he's expensive, very expensive. But then this is for a bounty that seems near impossible. Like, it seems like he's very expensive, but he's taking all these like low-paying jobs, so it doesn't sound like he is expensive.
No,
and then because this job's so hard, wouldn't it like have to cost a lot of money anyway?
He was told by Carl Weathers that he's very expensive, which I think was Carl Weathers gouging Werner Herzog.
Yes, and you got to think Carl Weathers is going to get a cut of this bounty too. Like, he's not doing this he's the middleman. So I think Emily's onto something with that.
I wonder,
that makes sense. Yeah.
Did they touch upon? They didn't really say how much it was at all. Yeah, or is it just for all that sweet metal? Is that?
Well, yeah. I think it's like more like, because he just says like, oh, like he knows that he's a Mandalorian, therefore he must want this like special Mandalorian space metal. Like, I know what I can get. Like, it all seems like he already knows exactly. Like, it should have been more like clear, I think, in the way it was set up, that this was all like planned from the beginning. Like, Space Carl Weathers and Space Werner Herzog like already had talked about this and had all set up, and they're like luring him into this thing.
This is all stuff that could come to light in future episodes.
True.
Like, they don't necessarily have to lay out the whole plan, especially if there's going to be some crisscrossing and some turning on each other stuff going on. So,
Do they know his
I think
name?
from now on we should refer to Robbo as Earth Robbo.
Earth Robbo. Do they know the Mandalorian's name?
Do they?
I don't know.
I can tell you that Pedro does, and he said
Yes, he does.
in the last 24 hours in an interview. So
Yeah, I mean, I know he has like a name and he's like a nobody, but like there's like when he goes into the like, which is what happens right after this, right? Is he goes to like the Mando like underground hideout where even the kids wear helmets, don't you know? And he walks past. What I guarantee you was meant to be a shout out to Jodo Cast, who was a Boba Fett and all but name that was invented for the RPG. And all that. And it's like, well, what are those guys doing? Like, or do they all like hunt bounties? Then he can't be the Mandalorian, or is it just him and he's supporting like this whole colony?
Well, I don't. Okay, so it would be a little silly to me if all of those Mandalorians were bounty hunters, because we're already working on the premise of this is a guy that looks a lot like Boba Fett, but he's not Boba Fett. But he's got Boba Fett's job, but he's not Boba Fett. And if all the dudes that looked like that,
I know how like frustrating it is when, like, you know, all the Mandalorians are bounty hunters, all the Greedos are like bad, you know, killers. I want to go to the Watto planet where everyone they've got their own little stalls and they're just trying to sell, like they're all trying to sell stuff to each other, like just Wattoing up.
Nobody's buying.
Yeah, that'd be so dope.
I bet you go there and they're just a bunch of corpses. They all starve to death. It's like they could.
Wow.
They couldn't like. I can't get a good enough deal on this ham sandwich.
I don't know that they're all meant to be bounty hunters. I'm hoping we get a little more insight into that whole.
I'm sure we will. Yeah, I wasn't saying that as if that's like that's a plot hole. I'm just saying like
No.
There's got to be something up with that. And also, I want to see what those kids' helmets look like, because why are the kids wearing helmets when they live underground?
I think. I mean, it might be because kids like to dress up and like run around in helmets, especially if they have like the cool Mandalorian who is obviously seems to like have a higher position in this enclave, you know, and he's donating the rest of the money that comes from this when they melt down the thing to help the foundling. So they probably look up to him and stuff. And so I can see it being that. Also, I feel like this is definitely, hey, we're in our little refugee enclave. We're going to do everything we can to hang on desperately to our culture.
Right.
Now, I was totally shocked by going into that Mandalorian enclave thing, but I loved it because it clicked me into something that I've like wanted for so long, and that's he is Mike from Breaking Bad. Like the very savvy bounty hunter type that has his plans are well thought out, and he's doing it all this sort of crime for a benevolent purpose. I was so stoked.
Well,
it's not crime though. Let's just be clear. But go ahead.
The other thing that's good about that is it gives more stakes, because otherwise. Okay, so like when he has the little touching moment with the Yoda baby, you go, okay, he's not going to want to hand over the Yoda baby to Werner Herzog and the evil scientist dude who wants to do some crazy experiments on him. And if it's just him, then it's like, okay, then he can like take off and he doesn't have to worry about anybody else. But there's this enclave of his people, and Werner Herzog is not a type to be like, oh, well, the Mandalorian did something bad, I'm just going to target him. It's, hey, you screwed me over, I'm going to burn your entire enclave to the ground.
Good point. Right.
Yeah, I sort of thought when
him with other than his life.
Yeah.
I thought when he said the thing about it would be nice to get this metal back to the man, whatever he said, I kind of thought he was trolling him. Like sort of
It
saying,
did seem kind of like he
like
was.
the
yeah.
empire I was a part of, like I'm acknowledging that we took this from you, and it would be nice to give it back. Like,
Or
like he was doing
I
you
know
a
that
favor.
like 2 blocks over, you've got like an entire society hidden away because they're hidden. Like that must be there must be a reason for that, right?
For coolness. Now, Hawes,
Yes, sir.
you're a huge fat guy.
I am.
All of a sudden, we're going into this Mando layer. The music that cracks open, it kind of sounds like the opening of a Tool song. And then
A little bit.
And then you've got the banging of like the industrial metal. Like I could just imagine you like on the ground, beard just covered in drool with a big grin.
I reroute, like, I'm not one to rewind stuff on my first viewing. Like, I like to watch it all the way through. I had to rewind that a couple of times because there was so much that I wanted to take in. I never thought I would be so fascinated by a blacksmithing scene in Star Wars. Boy, I was wrong.
That was pretty cool. Hawes, like, can you tell us, like, does all the Mando armor, is it all made of the special space steel or just the really important people?
So I think, like, I think it all is. And I think I don't know, because things have changed. And, like, when you think about what Mandalorian culture stuff we've gotten in Star Wars that's canon, it's mainly come from Clone Wars and Rebels, right? Like, that's where the most of that stuff has come from.
Yeah, they take their helmets off all the damn time.
They do. And so I think that it is all, that's what makes Mandalorian armor, is the fact that it's made from Beskar, Mandalorian iron. The thing that fascinates me is the whole insignia thing. Like, she asked him, has your signet
Yeah.
revealed itself? And he's like, no. And she says, soon. I think, and this is one of the maybe small downfalls of following this stuff so closely to do podcasts and whatnot, I think I know what his insignia is going to be, because it was on the producer coin. Do you remember that story where the kid got the producer's challenge,
coin? Yeah.
Yeah, that had the helmet on one side, and on the other side there was a symbol that I think is going to end up being his symbol.
Oh, yeah, I think Ash got given one of those.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
No, do we know what exactly it means for his signet to be revealed? Is that some sort of, is it a ceremony? Is it because he's a foundling and doesn't know necessarily who his house is?
Yeah, I don't know this for sure, but just from that line of dialogue, it made me wonder, because, like, there's that whole thing with the Mandalorians and Rebels where they're so-and-so of House Vizsla or whatever, and it could even, you don't even have to be born into that family, right? Like, you can be, like, I could be Halls Burkhart of House Vizsla instead of House Burkhart or whatever. So I'm wondering if that is, it's sort of like a graduation moment or something, or maybe, like, so I guess whoever had Boba Fett's armor, wherever Boba and Jango got their armor, their signet was the Mythosaur skull, because he's famously got that on his shoulder piece, right?
Right. That's what I was going to ask earlier. Right.
So is it going to be representative of some great task or, like, challenge that he overcomes? Like, hopefully his signet isn't a blurg.
If you want to go full span, that'd be pretty good. What if it was Ugnulty was a signet? It was just like an Ugnulty face, like right on his paw. If it's gonna go full 110% space western, what he's gonna have to do is like meet some shaman or something and take some space peyote and like go out on like a vision quest, and then he's gonna like meet like his spirit animal.
I think going to the Foundry, that seemed like that was his vision quest with all the flashbacks. Which, did anyone spot a battle droid? Like, I haven't sort of paused through it, but is that from a different clip or what?
But we saw it in the trailer, right?
That's in that bit.
I think,
is he having flashbacks every episode?
I think those flashbacks are going to, maybe not every episode, but as the series progresses, I think we're going to see more and more of that flashback, and eventually it'll be revealed. Like, I think that's where the battle droids and stuff come into play, is going to be in the flashbacks. And I think we're going to see that was probably his parents locking him away to keep him safe from the battle droids. And that's, I mean, he clearly doesn't like droids. It's well established. And I mean, that all just lines up too much for me to be anything other than the battle droids killed his family or took over his planet or something.
We need a new way to hide orphans in this galaxy.
Yeah, other than
And
shutting
now
them up
down
in like a space cellar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was sort of thinking about today. I was like, what? Like, if there was like a you put them in a pod and there's a secret underground train that shoots them like to somewhere else.
I really hope
but
Forrest Whitaker is the one
hole.
who gets him out of there. That would be great. Like,
Mandalorian, I've come to rescue you.
There is, like, when you think about it, like, there's at least an opportunity for some kind of character cameo in that role. If that's what happens, if somebody comes and rescues him, maybe it'll be Carl Weathers.
this is just his job. it's Forrest Whitaker's job.
Yeah, he just rescues kids, trains them to be a badass, and then, like, see you later, go do your thing.
Yeah, for like $200, Forrest Whitaker will rescue your estranged child.
Hey,
Yeah.
I don't want to bring the vibe down, but the forest has been cut down. He's out.
But it could have happened when he was a kid. When the Mandalorian was a kid, that timeline lines up.
Yeah, actually,
yeah,
the
okay.
whole timeline thing is something we should talk about. Or
Okay.
we can wait for if we ever do a episode commentary track. Hint, hint.
Very good. Very good. The landscapes, when he lands on this planet, now, like, a lot of the show was filmed, like, in a abandoned paddock in LA near the airport. And to have those, like amazing vistas and stuff, I was so impressed by like all the landscapes and stuff, and especially the big cracks and the blurgs are jumping them. Like that was just like, thank you, Star Wars, thank you for just showing me this like just delightful imagery of things I could never imagine.
Yeah, I thought for like the CGI, like human being riding on a CGI lizard, it was probably the best Star Wars has ever done.
Oh,
And they've done a lot.
Watch that compared to Anakin riding on the back of whatever that thing is on Naboo in Attack of the Clones, and it's like 50 years of movie history difference. Like, it's so much better.
Because it's hard for them to animate human bodies moving in that kind of like unnatural way. Like you even see it in Solo where Val like does the grappling hook, and it's like suddenly her body turns into like really oddly stiff.
A Thunderbird. She looks
It looks like a
Thunderbird.
marionette. Yeah. I loved the close-up shots where it was clearly a Muppet that he was wrestling with and like punching a Muppet in the eye.
Yeah.
Great. I love the Muppetry. Good Muppetry.
But the Blurg was originally in like the battle for Endor, and I feel like the way they animated it was sort of to animate it like that stop motion, like the way that had such a like a unique, like I don't know, this just a bizarre movement.
Like its stride, like the way it walks, I got like Tauntaun vibes from it. You know, like the further out shots of Tauntauns when you see them walking on Empire Strikes Back. So like the CG that they did and somehow made it look of that quality. I don't know. Maybe I'm being crazy, but like thought it was pretty neat.
What about that the females eat the males after mating? Did you feel like you were being catered to, Emily?
Absolutely. I'm fine with that. Look, I mean, it's the sort of line that you get honestly quite a lot in sci-fi. It's fairly tired, but I'm fine with it. It was funny. It made me laugh.
Yeah, somebody says something about a weird creature, and then the person who knows about the weird creature says something even weirder. Although it's actually not that weird if you understand, like, you know, earth bugs and stuff like that. But
Right. It's not that uncommon.
Do you think?
Or-
do you think
yeah.
like over time they're going to release some making of? Like normally they're so into like going on about all the effects and stuff, but I need one of those vignettes with like green lines around the Ugnaught. Like where does Nolte begin and Ugnaught start? Like it's
I don't think Nolte is there in person at all.
No.
I think that's an actor on a mask.
Really,
And
you
he's
don't think
just-
he was walking around on his knees in a big
No.
mask?
Oh no, it's
Nope.
it's an
think it's
LA
only
actress.
voice.
An LA actress is the Ugnaught, the body. But
Right.
I'll look up her name in 2 secs. But like the face, it looks like Nolte's eyes. Like what? Like there's Nolte's in there. Like digitally, he's been Noltified. The Ugnaught.
I
I think somebody went to his house and took a picture of him.
I think the Ugnaughts were based on Nolte in the first place. Like, I think somebody had a time machine and they're like, what does Nick Nolte look like in the year like 2005? And just, that would be a perfect alien. That's exactly who works on that conveyor belt.
I loved. What's the Ugnaught's name? Sorry.
Nolte?
It's Kuiil.
Okay, so it's not bad that I don't know his name.
Right. I haven't figured out how to say it either. Kuiil? I don't know.
Absolutely love him. That I have spoken line, like it was when I heard that the second time he said it, and I realized that was his little like cadence, that was his over. I was like, oh, that's like, it was like when I heard Conjure Club in The Force Awakens, like in the cinema, and I was like, oh, everyone's going to be saying that tomorrow. Like it's such, just.
That's a
So
good
well
Star
done.
Wars detail because it implies that that's what Ugnaughts say, or not, maybe not Ugnaught, but like it's like that's what people from that part of the galaxy would say. Like they don't say like, I'm not telling you anything else. They're like, I'll tell you later. They say, I have spoken. It's like their way of saying like, dude, shut up. I'm not answering any more questions.
Well-
It implies something that is broader than the movie or TV show in this case itself. Which is always a good thing for Star Wars to do, rather than just reference something that you've already seen or heard.
Well, I just love that they come up with like, you've got an Ugnaught, this little pig man, and now he's living out in the desert. But then it's like, let's make up something weirder about him. And then it's like, oh, we'll make every sentence say, I have spoken. Like adding that extra weird detail. That's like the Star Wars. It's the juice. Bite in. But
Yeah, and that's what you do to make characters interesting, and that's what Star Wars can do in abundance because there are no rules for the most part. Like, you want to create a character who's just like a little bit distinct, you just give them something like that, and then somebody will write a novel where every single Ugnaught says that after every sentence, and it becomes like driven into the ground to the point where it's not interesting anymore.
And I liked why the Ugnaught helped him. I thought that made sense. It was just like, once we get rid of these dudes, the better the town's going to be a lot more mellower. I want to sleep in.
Yeah. I'm just bummed that it seems like that's all the Nolte we're getting in this. Unless, I was thinking about this, unless the next episode deals with him trying to get off the planet and there's some kind of difficulty in that, then we might not be getting any more.
Nick Nolte's got the only like Baby Yoda formula on the planet, so
Okay.
like if you want to feed that thing,
I have a question because
Okay.
it's sort of the way I watched it versus what I've heard other people talking about since, which is the guys, I can't remember the aliens, sorry, the guys who had Baby Yoda.
hmm
I've heard a couple people saying, oh, they were like the Knights Templar or something protecting the Baby Yoda, and the Mandalorian and IG-11 just wiped out a bunch of like heroes. I had taken it when I was watching as, oh, there's there's a third group and even possibly more who all want the Baby Yoda for their own nefarious purposes.
I
So how
haven't
did
put
you
much
guys
thought
watch
into that. Huh.
What do you mean, Emily? Like, so the people that the Mando were fighting, I thought, like, to me, they were the gang holding Baby Yoda, or yodeling. What about yodeling?
I can't believe I'm saying this, but Yoju is your best option here.
It's from The Simpsons.
I get it. Yeah, the kids can call you Hoju. Yeah,
Yes.
good. So, Emily, are you saying like you've heard that they're like the dudes in Venice and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade who are like, we'll kill you with this speedboat because the Holy Grail is our legacy or something like that?
Yeah, and that never even crossed my mind, but I heard a couple people on
It could be. That would be
Twitter
interesting.
discussing it that way.
Well, that makes his total annihilation of them really sad. Like if they were just, I kind of feel like that. I don't know. That really that sort of muddies up the character. If that's why, if they were like protecting him, I thought they were trying to profit off him.
Serves those dummies right for
I mean,
going.
I kind of.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it doesn't quite work for me because they just sort of had him stuck on a box with him natting over his thing, which doesn't seem like if you're protecting the little cute baby, or have like think the little cute baby is some sort of precious object that you do. That seems more like a here's this expensive thing we have that we'll do something with eventually kind of thing.
Hey, devil's advocate here. Like sometimes you just got to put them where you can. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
He wasn't covered in his own filth. It's like somebody was changing those diapers, so it's not like they were completely neglecting him. I was just gonna say it was like I can't believe they all went outside. It's like, well, the last 20 dudes like died, but maybe like the next 5 of us could go out and like really turn the tide.
I feel like one guy stayed inside. I think he got killed.
He did.
Yeah. Now, before we close out with Yoju, IG-11, like, I'm just so glad we get a new droid that's not sassy. Like, I love. He's my favorite,
yes.
like, new personality droid. I like the way he thinks is so, like, logical for an assassin droid. I'm such a fan.
And we got to see what it looks like when he walks.
Oh, and do you know what it looks like, Hawes? It looks like
Exactly.
the best thing ever.
It does.
Like the way he was like swiveling his arms and then the eyes, I never knew that like, they were all moving independently, like to find new targets. It was like, it was another one. It was another like, this is a dream. This is a weird Star Wars dream I'm having here.
When the scene where he and the Mandalorian are standing next to each other after like they've killed all the dudes, and the Mandalorian's like, that doesn't look good, talking about the shot in his side, and he's like, oh, it missed my central wiring harness, and he's like, is that good? And then like IG-11's 2 eyes come together and then look down at the Mandalorian, and he's like, it is. Like, I don't know why, but I thought that was so neat. Like, how his little eye stalks or whatever operated.
It's almost as if this episode was directed by an animation director who's really good at that kind of thing. Which, for the like, again, I don't think Dave Filoni is good at talking to people or telling them what he really thinks, which is why you get some of these issues in the other scenes. But
Robbo, however,
if
is
you would have
very
told me
good
that
at saying
I would have
what he
seen
thinks.
IG-88 walk and it makes like it actually looks really, really good, I wouldn't have believed you before this.
Well, it was interesting, that whole Mandalorian section in the Enclave. If that was in Clone Wars, I would have been just like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't, like, I'm not judging anyone, and I'm not saying, if people love it as much or more, but I just don't respect animation as much as live action. Like, seeing that in live action was so fascinating compared to if it was animated, I'd just be like, yeah.
I don't know. To me, that scene looked like, I don't understand why every costume was basically just Boba Fett with different colors, like except for the blacksmith chick who was awesome.
But isn't that
She had,
the
like,
whole
horns.
culture? Aren't they all like got their masks and their suits? Isn't that what it's all about?
why would you make them exactly the same? They didn't do that to, you know what I mean? Like, it's just.
Yeah, and even in Clone Wars and Rebels, there is variance in the, like, it could be even as something as simple as a different sort of shape to the visor, you know. But they don't look as samey. I do like that they sort of did a take on the Sabine style helmet for the blacksmith lady. I thought that was really neat.
Her helmet looked really distinct. It looked really nice, I thought.
Is the horns on the helmet Hawes signify that she's part of Darth Maul's clan or something?
Oh, I forgot all about that. I doubt that's what they're going with. Like, if you remember Sabine's mom in...
Hey, we
in
all remember
Rebels?
Sabine's mum.
She had, like, not exactly those style horns, but she had, like, almost like Batman ears on the side of her helmet. More like owl. It looked almost like an owl, her helmet. So there is, like, precedence for some decorative elements on the helmets.
Now, at what point, like, I didn't click it was a Yoda until the face. Like, the behind shot didn't do it for me.
The behind shot did it for me. As soon as I saw the ears from behind, I was like, that's a baby Yoda.
Yeah.
Once I heard Taika Waititi say, like, some species may, like, you know, whatever he said, like, have much longer childhood phase, which biologically does not make sense. I'll just point that out. But
No, what about dog years? What about cat years?
it always would work in the opposite. Like, cats are, like, adults before they're 1 human year old.
Yes, because their lifespan is shorter. That's how it works.
I just don't understand why you would remain an infant. If your lifespan is like 1,000 years, why would you be an infant for
Because
like,
it's all stretched out.
a larger percentage of that than we are infants in our lives? But anyway, Emily, did you like see that coming, or?
I mean, I definitely wasn't expecting to see a Yoda, but like as soon as you see just the little like outline of the ears, I'm like, I believe my exact words yelled at my television were, "Oh my God, it's a baby Yoda."
You didn't say Yoju?
I didn't, and I really can't believe that didn't immediately jump to my mind.
Yeah, me too. I guess you just need someone to lead the way. I can be that guide for you.
You're a thought leader.
I gotta say, like, a lot could have gone very wrong showing a baby Yoda, right? Like, think of all the bad fan art you've seen of young Yoda, and his skin is like plastic.
I love
smooth,
that.
and
It's
like,
so great.
and they could have really messed up this, but I don't know. I don't know that I have a single complaint about the design of the baby Yoda species.
I just wish they would have made his skin like an obviously different color so nobody would confuse it with Yoda. It's himself.
I can get that because even Yaddle in the prequels, her skin is a little different, but it's still green, but it's a different shade.
I reckon if they changed the color, it would make it too different.
You think?
Yeah, I think for most, I think people need that's a baby Yoda. Like, it was so clearly a baby, and it was so cute. Like, it was so cute.
It's the cutest thing that's ever been in Star Wars. I'm sorry, everything else.
Oh, it was.
I can't deal with it.
It's too bad they didn't give him like a little cane and he's just chewing on it.
You're gonna need this in a little while.
Wasn't that like some like EU thing where it's like the cane had like some hallucinogenic properties and Yoda chewed on it to get high?
They called it it was like his gimmer stick.
Yeah,
the glimmer stick or something.
Yeah. It's how long does it take for him to merchandise this Yoju?
I'm telling you, there will be pops out. There will be because Funko's always the first, right? Funko will have that out by the beginning of 2020.
I guarantee you, there are people whose tattoos are just like drying right now. Like they just got them.
They're just scabbing up. It's a great time.
Yeah.
Do you think the Mandalorian is ever going to carry little baby Yoda on his back like Luke Skywalker style, but instead of big Yoda head, little baby Yoda head looking over his shoulder.
I'm just picturing like Pedro Pascal with like one of those baby Bjorn things, and like Yoda just like hanging out of it. And then my mind immediately goes to Pedro Pascal breastfeeding baby Yoda.
Why does it immediately go there?
I don't know, but I'm
something is seriously wrong with me, and but we don't know. Maybe Mandalorians, like male Mandalorians, lactate. You don't know.
No.
That's
bias.
true. I don't know.
No bias. Very interesting,
but you're all thinking about it.
As I said before, I was enjoying the show. I was like, this is good Star Wars fun. There's a lot of I wasn't that caught up in the story, but all the little Star Wars treats, like, the land speeder with the R2 unit and the like, just all the little things like that. But then once, like, they revealed, like, the Force was involved, because it was just missing the Force, which is my favorite.
Is the Force involved, Steele?
Well, I have to assume.
Or are you just generalizing because Yoda knows the Force, therefore all of the Yodas know the Force?
Hey,
is that what you're doing?
As Jerry Seinfeld once said, if I like their race, how can it be racist?
Well, what else do you bring baby Yodas into the story for?
Because they're rare and therefore like special. Also, about him being the bounty being 50 years old, Hawes, what do you think is up with that? Because the Phantom Menace happened 41 years prior to this show.
Right. I don't know what the significance of that is. I have a worry. Like today, somebody noticed something about one of the characters in the show that has me very worried. And I think it was because my brain went to an immediate worst case scenario situation. So, the doctor that works for Werner Herzog?
I know where you're going, and it's terrible.
Yes, he's got an emblem on his shoulder that is a Kaminoan cloner emblem, I guess. It's like
yeah.
Right. And so my mind goes, like I said, worst case scenario is they're not going to say this is a clone of Yoda, are they? Like, don't do that. Don't do that. Like, because
Yoda.
I really don't want them to do that. Now, could it be that he's interested in cloning Yoda's species? Now, that makes sense.
That's more up my alley.
And could it be that they're interested in studying them because they live so long?
If it were cloning, though, would it matter if he showed up dead? Like,
that was what I was thinking.
Yes, yes. I'm clinging to that. Please.
I think it might be that. So I was talking. I think it was with King Tom, and there was some sort of story element about the sample they got from Jango deteriorating over time. That's why they kept him around, right? The cloners. So maybe if the baby's alive, they have more samples they can get. I don't know.
What if they weren't stupid and they did something cool with this? What would that be?
I mean, here's the other thing to keep in mind is somebody wants that baby Yoda dead.
Yes. Somebody wants him dead. Werner Herzog would prefer it if he's alive, but bounty hunting's a complicated profession. Don't you agree?
So IG-11, it's a total different bounty that he's on.
I think so. Yes.
I think maybe for Giancarlo Esposito's character. That's just my guess right now. But or maybe Ming-Na's. I don't know. But my first immediate thought was Moff Gideon.
I thought Giancarlo's character is going to be the one who's revealed to be the guy who like raided the Mando's village.
I don't know because I think I don't because he's once again an Imperial guy, right? Like does that unless he was leading an army of battle droids in the Resistance.
Well, I mean, there's also such thing as like the droid mafia, right? Like it doesn't have
the droid Gotra.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be that this happened during the Clone Wars.
Run
that would like make him exactly like no younger than like 28. So you know what I mean? Like it makes more sense to me like there's just like a bad guy out there who's doing like I don't know. Like I think actually now that you mentioned that, you have a good point. Like I'm probably totally off.
He could be in his 30s. Like I don't know how old he's supposed to be in those flashbacks, but like if that happened at the very beginning of the Clone Wars, like
okay, yeah, he could be like 35.
Yeah, you could stretch it depending on how old he's supposed to be in those flashbacks.
But it's not like all the battle droids that were used in the Clone Wars just like retired after the war. It's like somebody surely must have done something with them. That would be the interesting story. Like I want to see like what if the Yoda species are rare, but they have some kind of like knowledge, and if they like have a really really super low birth rate, and so like the one Yoda baby that was born in like 400 years would be really valuable to them, and they have something that the Empire or whatever Empire remnant wants. Like, and then somebody else is like, no, I don't want the Empire to find it, and I'm going to kill that Yoda baby. And maybe that might be like, maybe that's, the New Republic who wants him dead. That would be interesting.
Yeah, I was intrigued by the idea of maybe they want to study it because they have a longer lifespan. Like, I'm going to use a reference here that may not land with everybody, but it's like a Ben from Lost situation where he wants Jack Shepard so he can operate on the cancer in his back. Like maybe there's something wrong with Werner Herzog. I don't know. He's got a doctor.
Herzog's got back cancer,
or he's got and I don't know, man. I was trying to think through. Like that's the thing that.
I think if it was Werner Herzog, he'd be more worried about it coming home alive if he depended on it for some sort of health.
Right. That's true.
I hope it's something more complicated than anti-aging serum.
I do too.
I mean,
we got to explain how Palpatine's still alive.
It's the evil space Maybelline company.
There's lots of species that have longer lifespans. I mean, IG-11 just sort of like shrugs off the whole 50-year-old baby thing.
That's true. I mean, Wookiees, they live much longer. That's a good point too. So
Maz is even older, right?
Yeah.
Whatever she is.
Yeah, I think it's like, I don't know, if you go to a really good Indian restaurant, you don't ask them how to cook the rice. Is that a good metaphor? I feel like his long life, that's not his main benefit. It's his sweet force action.
Why would he have to? Why would they all have the force?
Well,
I don't want the Yodas to all be like Yoda. That would be stupid.
This wouldn't necessarily be all having the force. Maybe this baby has the force.
Just let them all have the force, Robbo. Just let them.
Why?
I mean, I don't want him to have the force either, just because I don't want the force in this show. But
I kind of don't want him to use the force, but I want the promise of some force. Like there is a chance on the next, and I think that the show could just go off a cliff for Robbo, or if he's like in the ship and there's just stuff floating around, and the Mandalorian's like,
I hate to say that there's something that would just kill it for me because I really want to continue enjoying this show, but damn it, Steele. Don't you agree that my idea is more interesting? Just admit it.
What's your idea exactly?
That there's something the baby is valuable for any other reason.
that is
it's just like maybe the Yoda species, they're like rarely seen for a reason. Like maybe like you're trying to coax them out of hiding or something, or like anything. Like you want something that they have. Anything, but they all have the force and they all talk backwards. Please, for the love of God, not that.
Are we getting
I hate the idea that Star Wars is so bereft of ideas. All they can do is make everything like what we've seen before.
I don't know. I like it a little bit, not too much. Do you think any Yodas are involved in the search for Baby Yoda, Yoju?
If we see a Yoda species bounty hunter, that might take. If I see a Yoda with a bandolier and like a bunch of guns, that's worse than the lightsaber.
No. I mean, are they hiring? Like, are they in? Like, there's one. Someone wants the Yoda, the
Right.
Yoju, and they're like, you got to think the Imperial wants to do tests on it, and then IG-11, he just wants to shoot it in the head. Like, so who are these opposing? But, like, is he going to end up not? Like, I feel like this is what has to happen. I guess is very obviously is he decides he doesn't want to like go through with it. Like, he's got to get it back to its rightful home rather than because it's sort of established that he's got this, you know, quite a moral code in that he's not out bounty hunting for his own gain, but it's for like his family's or his tribe's
Right.
gain.
I consider people who decline to shoot babies to be on the moral end of the moral spectrum. Yes, I agree.
I mean, it's a pretty low bar.
And I think the setup of him clearly going through something when he was a
Right.
baby or a young one, like I think that is going to tie into it too.
Oh, I mean, yeah, we have the line about him caring about foundlings and being a foundling when he's talking to the armorer. And I mean, maybe this is a reach. I think it's intentional. When we see him being closed up in the cellar or whatever, and he's got the blanket wrapped around him, and then there's little Yoda baby in his little space bassinet wrapped up in a little blanket, all
Right.
alone.
It makes me wonder if the Mandalorian has some kind of similar importance. Like, were they hiding him because he's important in some way? Or is it more of like, look, these droids or whatever is going to wipe out everybody, so we got to hide our son?
I mean, if so, he must be only important to his like village or his
clan or
family
something.
because he's the only guy in the Enclave who leaves the Enclave, apparently. Like, he's the one who's. That's why I was asking about the special Mando steel that they. Whether he is the only one who can wear that, or whether all of their armor is like that. Because if it's all like that, what are the dudes doing who are just like sitting around the house? Like, are they just like? Because you can't tell. Like, if the show showed you something where it's like, oh no, those are like old men or women or whatever. Like they're the old people in the group. They can't go out and do this anymore. All they do is stand by the door. Then it would make sense. Like, he's their hope, like for a new generation. But they can't show that to you, or they don't bother to. And if they've all got the steel, like, what's the point of him getting it? Like,
I think we also got to keep in mind, like, you know, this is 8 episodes, and only, like I said earlier, it's like the first one, and you don't want to play all your cards. Like, what I really like about this show that was one of the things that reminded me of the kind of Star Wars I like the most is how it just drops you in. You know what I'm saying? Like, drops you in. It's
true.
the true definition of the quote-unquote mystery box of, like, you drop people into an established universe with established characters, and you reveal stuff to them slowly as you go along, right?
yeah, or Uncle
So-
George's like documentary style, where he's just
Right.
showing you the galaxy as it is. And
Right.
some of it will be
Yeah.
explained, some of it won't.
We don't know that none of the other Mandalorians are ever going out and doing stuff. We know that this enclave seems pretty locked down, but that just could also be, hey, remember how we almost all got wiped out? We're going to be really super protective of it. Maybe there's some people hanging out there, but maybe there's also a guy who like goes to work at the floral shop every day.
The Mandalorian florist. I'm
I
down
don't
with
know.
that.
It looked like a lot of layabouts to me. A lot of bludgers. Not doing
Yeah,
their
I'm
fair
sure it'll be
share.
explained in some more interesting way than that. But it just seemed odd that he's the only one with a day job. That's all. It seemed like that. But I'm sure there's some explanation. But yeah.
The scene with IG-11 about to shoot Yoju. Sorry. That actually got me. Like, I don't normally, I sort of, in shows, I don't normally buy into that. But I was sort of like, when the shot went off, I was like, like
Yep.
I had tension, and then I was so relieved. Like, I was so emotionally invested instantly that as soon as they introduced Yoju, that I was like, no, you can't do that to Yoju. And I was so happy to see the hole in his head. I was very relieved.
He's coming back, though.
Oh yeah.
Why do you say that, Hawes? Not that I'm disagreeing.
Well, we could be dealing with a Rogue One situation where we've been shown things, official things that don't end up in the final show. But there's, like, if you watch the trailers and stuff, there's IG-11 stuff in those trailers that we haven't seen in the show yet.
Is like again, I do think he's going to be in the rest of the show. But what shots are there that we haven't? Like most of that.
There's two.
Uh-huh.
There's one from a TV spot where Cara Dune is like, who are they going after? And then it cuts to IG-11 and he goes, the Mandalorian. And then there's another one that's him and Cara Dune and the Mandalorian in the cockpit of the Razor Crest.
Ah.
Pause. Could you do the little arm motions again where you said
The Mandalorian.
Thank you. All right, I'm done. Thank you.
See, this is why I don't like doing video. This is what I do when I podcast and stuff. And
Somebody
nobody ever has
wishes
to
he
see
was a shirtless Skeletor on a bearskin rug now. Doesn't seem so stupid now, does it? You can't see any of the dumb. I'm doing dumb hand motions all the time. Nobody can see it.
Also, I do so bad with his name. Taika Waititi.
Taika Waititi. Yes.
Say it one more time.
Taika Waititi.
Taika Waititi. Excellent. Taika Waititi. Burn that. Burn that. I have so much trouble remembering names these days. Saying them is another thing, but just taking them in. He said in an interview that, like, he mentioned episodes. Like, so I guess that's...
Yeah, and he also had that thing in one of the interviews where he said that one of IG-11's sort of personality quirks is that he hates being compared to IG-88. And we saw no evidence of that, unless that's one of those things that, like, they just sort of worked out behind the scenes, and who knows.
What about Nolte, the Nognot? Is he coming back?
I hope so.
I hope so too, but I don't know.
You know, it's okay if he doesn't. You know, I think one more episode, because he's probably got the Yoda diapers, you know, or something like that. He seems like he knows more than he's letting on. Like,
I would have respected if they didn't bring back IG-11, but realistically, I want him to come back because I thought he was awesome. But if it was just one done, like when he, like, you know, when you watch it for the first time and, you know, you sort of go, oh, and you don't really process that, oh, he can probably just come back. He's a droid. Like, I was sort of like, oh, wow, what a gutsy move, killing, like, what seemed like a main bounty hunter in like the first episode. But so I would have respected the decision, but I don't think it's going to happen. With the Ugnaught, however, I don't respect. Keep him in. Get him. Let him. You got to come for some reason. Come on.
You need characters for him to talk to. I don't like the idea. I really hope to get the other characters that we haven't met yet are in there soon so they can talk to each other. Because I do feel it odd that he's just wandering around in the first like 20 minutes of the show and there's nobody talking to him. Like, it's in a movie that would make more sense because movies have time to stretch out a little bit. But in a 40-minute TV show, I just felt like it just seemed kind of like there's not a lot of plot going on in that, in like over half the episode.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like I understand that TV shows are like, you know, they got to get things warmed up and set the scene and all that, but it just seemed like, maybe that's just my way of saying like I liked the show a lot better once you found out what his real personality was, and I was impressed that you could do that without taking the helmet off yet. You can't even see his eyes.
No, I thought it was really well done, and I think they knew they nailed it because the very first piece of concept art that comes out during the credits is that scene of him extending the finger to the little baby Yoda finger.
Yeah, they I didn't even think about that. So that wasn't just, if that was in concept art, if that really is concept art, then that must have been in the script from the beginning, which is a very, that's the thing I'd imagine a screenwriter would have trouble like visualizing until you're actually on the set thinking about like, what would this person do? But I guess somebody is like, you know, if what's his name?
John
Guy
Favreau.
from Iron Man.
Favreau.
Yeah. That guy.
But those images at the end, which were awesome,
Yeah.
like from the Ralph McQuarrie portfolio, pretty much, they could have been back engineered off things.
They could have.
Yeah.
They could have been. Yeah.
And a side note, I think it's really awesome that they're releasing a full album of soundtrack for each episode.
I don't
Like,
know how much. Do we have time to talk about the soundtrack a little bit, Steele?
Sure, buddy.
What do you think about that, Hawes or Emily? Either one.
I really liked it.
I liked it. I'm not. I tend to notice soundtracks when I really love them or really hate them. I mean, the part that stuck out to me the most was the soundtrack at the beginning, because you could lift that soundtrack and put it on an episode of Deadwood and it would seem fairly in line with the rest of it. So I noticed that. I did notice, hey, this is not a typical Star Wars soundtrack. But, I mean, I don't know. I didn't have a problem with it. I mostly liked it.
Yeah,
Hawes?
I thought it was quite like different, but it fit in, and it sort of became like it's sometimes like a sound effect, like that Foundry
That's the
section.
only
I was
thing
talking
that
about.
bothered me. I thought it was pretty good. I liked it better than the solo soundtrack, which I felt like departed from the orchestral thing in ways that were just kind of generic. This one I felt like had more personality to it, and I like the Ennio Morricone type style of like using atmospheric sort of effects. But I did not like the way that like all the weird wubba 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 stuff would kick in right when the ship was traveling, because you're like, is that the soundtrack or is that the spaceship? Because they both go wubba wubba. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? It's really disorienting. Like, which one is it? I just felt like you shouldn't do that when you're showing a ship that makes the same noise. It's too distracting. It's pulling my brain in two different directions. And it might just be me. Like I didn't think it was sounded bad. I just thought it was like that was maybe a little bit too similar.
One thing we were talking about in the Twitter chat that we had very opposing views on, Robbo, was when they used the Falcon sound effect of it not being able to start in the Razor Crest. I thought that was really cool. And you seemed a little bit titchy about it.
Do you think it's interesting enough to be like, I don't think that anybody cares but me, and I don't think that my opinion is actually entertaining. I just had to say it to somebody. That's why I mentioned it in that private chat. But yeah, like, so there's two different ways of like, I've got two different problems with that particular sound effect. And you had your chance to stop me and you didn't. So that's why it's happening. All right. Just so you know, you all just sat there like, oh, that delightful Robbo. Let's see what he has to say. So that's why I'm
Did
going.
anyone
You
say
can still stop
delightful,
me.
Robbo? Can I?
Huh?
I'm glad we're recording this. I'll have to go back and listen. Continue.
Yeah. So it's like the first thing is like, number one, those are the same sound for two different things happening. So that's the sound of the Falcon's hyperdrive failing.
Yeah,
It's trying to start up the hyperdrive. It doesn't
make
work.
sense. I just liked it. It was just like,
Yeah,
I
and the
felt
other
warm,
thing is like,
wanky.
okay, it doesn't make sense because the engines are obviously on because he's flying, and it's the snake walrus that's keeping him back, which doesn't affect the engines in any way. And it also doesn't have anything to do with the hyperdrive. Why would you use the same sound? Number two, that I understand. Like, of course, it doesn't really make sense. It's all made up, right? But why use the exact same sound? You couldn't even change the pitch? Are you that lazy? Like, it's just, you can't find two cars that sound exactly alike, let alone two spaceships.
I love it because I heard it and I was like, same sound. That's so cool.
And the land speeder is it's Luke's land speeder sound. It's no different. Like, it's supposed to be a new land speeder. Make it sound at least slightly different. Don't be lazy. And this, I gotta say, this is how they make those cartoons. And you know I'm right. Because they don't have time for that. They're just like, I don't just recycle the old ones. They've got a whole bank of sound effects, and they keep showing up. And those are cheap and disposable. But this is a live action TV show. Don't do that. Bring your A game. Because I guarantee you, Ben Burtt would not be like, I'm just going to do what I did before. He never did that. I'm done. You can start now.
I don't know what are our theories. Oh, actually, this is what I want to know, Emily. Without Cara Dune, a bit of a sausage party on these planets.
Yeah, it's not great. We did get the blacksmith. That was cool. I liked that was a woman. It's definitely an issue when everybody, even most of the background people, are men. I think there was maybe one woman in the bar.
There was actually a few, I thought. My favorite thing in Star Wars is just freeze framing on the bar scenes because I like to look at all the people in the background. And there's a few. There's actually some older women in the background too. Like kind of there's like a range, but yeah, you're right. It's like I mean, we don't know what those skiff guards that they were killing at the end. Like they may all look the same, but yeah, it was kind of like I think I thought about it when Ugnaughty was talking about the females eating the males of the Half-a-Dewback species.
Oh, well, the
blurgs. Oh yeah, right.
Blurgs were the females.
This is like the first women we've seen, females we've seen in a while. But I did appreciate what did you think of at least it seems like the leader of their clan is the blacksmith, right?
It's sort of. I mean, it seemed that way to me. If not leader, at least some sort of fairly high position. He did seem rather deferent to her, so
almost like a priest.
Mm-hmm.
Like
he bowed
it was like a holy task that she was doing. She, at worst, she's the leader of the blacksmiths.
I like that her costume wasn't obviously feminized in any way. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's you know what I mean? They didn't do anything. You had to kind of wait until she spoke. And you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, definitely. But until that, you're not quite sure. And that seems like that's an interesting detail for that culture, is that it's not the men wear Boba Fett costumes and the women wear metal bustiers or something like that. It's
because that's a common problem in video games when they want to put a lady in armor or something. It's completely impractical. Yeah,
it's like the Halloween spirit syndrome. It's there's Boba Fett, there's sexy Boba Fett.
Right, exactly.
I'm really sad I didn't get a smile or laugh out of anybody on that, but okay.
Well, no, I was just thinking, no, that's actually incredibly accurate.
I think they're going to do better, but yeah, I hope they're going to do better, but that was a little bit. Yeah, and I'm actually kind of sad that it didn't really occur to me until kind of the very end of the show.
There's promises. Yeah. There's Cara Dune. Then there's there's another. Is she a bounty hunter? The actress?
An assassin.
An assassin. But yeah, it was very, very skewed. And then I was sort of going back and I was like, oh, you could have made that character a female. It seemed.
Yeah. Why wasn't the bartender in the beginning a woman? Why did they? It's there's things they could have done.
Yeah, if you're trying to benefit of the doubt, it's they wrote all these roles and that's just how it and it's going to balance out later on. But
yeah, I don't know. I liked it. What I like about Star Wars is that there's clearly racism in the Star Wars galaxy and sexism and stuff like that, but it seems to all be coded. It's like Star Trek racism, where it's all the humans are cool with the other humans. It's that they just hate the aliens, and that's the way. At least we've moved beyond hating other humans. Even the Empire is not that evil, right? But it is weird when you don't see, and it's also just from a like a industry standpoint, like those are, women actors who aren't getting work, who could have been. Like it's just a practical. Like I'm not accusing anybody of anything, and I'm the last person to. I probably shouldn't even be like voicing like I'm in any position of authority on this. I'm not. I didn't think about it until you mentioned it. To be honest, like I really didn't think about it until the very end of the show.
It's a bit rich coming from a blue naked guy on a green tiger.
Looks Skeletor is woke. Face it.
I did get a twinge of sadness about just the lack of toys. Like Not on a blurg. Come on.
Yeah. I'm hoping that some of that has to do with wanting to keep some of it held back. Like, there's been a little bit of Mandalorian merch out, but the fact that there isn't that Ugnaught on that creature as a toy is pretty surprising.
It's because they aren't selling toys to kids anymore. They're giving up on that. It's all the 3 3/4 inch things are for adults now, exclusively.
And if they made them, I wouldn't buy them. I'd buy it very sparsely anyway. But it's just the fact that it's not there. Do you know what I mean?
It's not. Yeah, the thing isn't very toy yet. I mean, I felt the same way about The Last Jedi. I thought in a good way, but I remember when those toys were coming out before I'd seen the movie. That was my first inkling is this might not go well for some people, because I'm like, the toys weren't it was here's the space cops. It's just kind of like, it was like they didn't have a lot of things to work with. And I think that's just more about the evolution of Star Wars as a whole. It's not so much that they're not trying to appeal to kids, but they're giving up on the toy aspect because kids don't buy toys anymore.
Yeah. Well, you look at the toy section in Target, every brand is just
it's nothing.
There's no mega brand, Lego. There's Lego, and then, but as far as action figures go, it's pretty. Everyone's got a pretty slim thing. I guess as we wrap up, what would you score it out of 10? I thought about it, and considering it's a first episode, I'm going to go an 8.5. Robbo, would you like to...
Why do I have to go next? Anybody but me.
Okay, anybody but Robbo.
I'm going to give it a 9.
Oof. Emily.
Yeah. I'm at a 9. I said this I forget whether it was in our chat or when I was talking to somebody else, but it's the most fun I've had watching Star Wars since I was a kid.
Oh my God. If I was 12, mind blown. But
I would have gotten bullied at school the next day because I wouldn't have shut up about it.
I can tell you, I rarely watch TV shows. I love Succession, and I've only seen a couple of episodes twice because I just had to watch. There was such a long gap, but I think I've watched it 4 or 5 times. Not completely tuned in, but I had so much fun watching it. Robbo, what's your score, buddy?
I don't like to score things.
Oh my God, just give it a number.
Oh, so you made us wait to hear that it's against your belief system.
I was thinking about whether I was going to do a super contrarian, it's a 6.5 or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. It's the first episode, and I wanted to see the second episode. That's good, right? So
guys, hold on. Let me handle this. Robbo, where would you place it in the top 57,000 pieces of Star Wars content?
Well,
okay, so if we look at the list at number 222, we have I, Jedi, the first person Jedi novel from the EU.
Well, it's definitely better than that, Hawes. I think we got to
Okay.
put it up a little bit higher on the list. But look, I'm gonna say like it's. I don't know. Like I was thinking, what would it be plus B? Like, would that be like a 7 or 7.5? Like, I don't know. It doesn't really matter though, because if the second episode changes, like if it really makes this, it could change the status of it.
The question is, this episode, taken purely by itself, give it a number. Here's the thing, Bravo. It doesn't matter. It's fine if you change your mind later. Nobody is like grading your grade of this episode. You could just give it a number, say anything you want. It's okay.
Okay, I'll say this. Like, I'll say like a solid 7. But when I heard that this was Emily Lynn's most favorite Star Wars thing in like modern history or whatever, like of the 21st century, I was like, that made me so happy. I'm like, that's great. Like, I just wanted to hear what you liked about it. Like, and it just made me think like, I didn't have the bad feeling about it. I guess I just wasn't. It's weird because like I wasn't like way into it, but then again I watched it like 6 more times.
6.
I don't know the exact number, Steele, and I wasn't always paying like 100% attention, but I kept watching. I was just like, I'm just gonna keep this going in the background, like, and it grew on me. Like I guess it's more like I'm so happy that I have something that's gonna come out every week for a couple months. And like I could talk about it with my friends, and just like it's something new every week. It's not like just a big dump of like one movie, and then we got to talk about it for a year.
I gotta say, if we're gonna have a several-year break in theatrical Star Wars, the first episode of this series made me feel a lot better about that. Like, if this is the quality of Star Wars we're gonna get in the TV show format, then I don't necessarily mind taking a couple of years off of theatrical Star Wars.
Yeah, they've got to start announcing a few more though, because
They do. They do.
like it's like we've got this big break, but then they're burning this before the break starts. So
Right, but we have for sure season 2 next year.
that's going to come out next year, for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's like 2 TV shows that haven't been canceled yet.
Hmm. And they said they have other ones in the works. So, like one season of The Mandalorian as opposed to one theatrical film. Like I think that'll make the wait a little easier, much easier than between 2012 when they announced Episode 7 and the release of Episode 7.
As long as they continue to be good, because otherwise then they're like, oh, there's a second season. That's like a threat. It's like we're not done hurting this yet. Like it can get so much worse. Like I don't want it's as long as it's good. With the movies, it's always like, if there's a stinker in there, like whatever, like they'll do better the next time. It's happened before. And like with the TV show, it's like you could just keep digging that hole and they can't reshoot it or anything. It's like it's all coming out. So that's what makes me nervous is like if this takes a turn for the worse, like in episode 4, it's like there's 4 more episodes. That's what I'm nervous about. But I mean, I feel good. And like I said, the most important thing is like I can talk about this with you guys for like a couple months. That's great.
So if you were to give it a number, say between 1 and 10.
I don't think I want to talk about this with you guys anymore. I changed my mind.
Well, he did. He said a 7, right?
I said like, yeah, it was like a 7, but like in terms of like just how happy it makes me, like that's 7 in terms of quality. Like how happy it makes me is like, that's a solid 8.5.
Okay, there we go.
Alrighty. Well, thanks so much, you guys. Let's go through Emily. Where can the good people of the internet track down your voice saying Star Wars things and your keyboard typing Star Wars things?
I am on Twitter at EFLind, and I do a podcast called The Canto Bight Dispatch. You can find on all the places you find podcasts, and also it is on Twitter at Canto Bight Pod.
Excellent. Robbo?
I'm on Twitter at GC9X, and I have a video game podcast called Hardcore Gaming 101. It's Top Games podcast. I do that twice a week.
That was easily one of the most enthusiastic plugs we've had on the podcast.
I didn't want to take up too much time. I wanted to keep things moving still. But do you want to slow it down anymore? Like, go ahead, man. It's like...
No.
I've never been here for this. This is what this is like.
Yeah, you'd think that we'd edit all the bad stuff out, and you're just no. It's always like this.
When I listen to the Robbo report, when you listen to a podcast, sometimes in your head you interact with the podcast. This is what it's like.
I've listened to a few episodes of Blue Harvest where I've had to get in a director's commentary to you. I've had to.
I know. I know.
My favorite thing is when we get tweets from somebody who's listening to the episode and hasn't finished yet. That's happened a couple times. I really enjoy that. I hope more people do it.
The live tweet. Hawes.
Yes, sir.
Where's your podcast?
You can find me at Blue Harvest Pod on Twitter every Saturday on Blue Harvest with my buddy Will, and I'm also on Rogue One with Johnny Grosso and Mike Pappas, and that's one with a W.
One with a W. If you haven't checked it out already, we've got a new interview episode up with the Mandalorian's very own Dominic Pace. If you only listen to 13 Dominic Pace podcast episodes this week, please make mine one of them. But I don't know. I think it turned out pretty good. Hopefully I win the battle. Robbo, maybe on the next episode you can review all the
rate Steel. He's got to listen to all the other ones though, and then rate yours,
and then come back.
Yeah. Should we? I mean, I don't know. I want to put it out there. I really do want to do a commentary about this. We couldn't do it today, but commentary track could happen. Could happen if you want it bad enough, listeners.
If you want it bad enough. And also on the Steel Wars Patreon, we just put up a Juklin Strikes Back with me and my wife Jacqueline, and it covers our night watching The Mandalorian for the first time. And people seem to enjoy.
It's the funniest thing is the beginning, right? Has anybody listened to it yet? I listened to it.
I haven't had a chance yet.
Oh, you're in for a treat. It is so funny.
What you mean, where she's going through the Disney app thing, and I don't.
She is trolling your ass hard, and it is very funny.
Brutal.
I was taking notes. This is how it's really done.
And there's a new Patreon questions you have. There's a new Page Wars with King Tom telling us what happened in Resistance Reborn. And what else? There's a Star Wars Year by podcast. I've got to put up the next one tomorrow on the Patreon halls of.
That's me.
Yeah, the third part of our 1977 Odyssey. But thanks so much, you guys. That was tremendous fun, and we've only got a couple days, and we get to watch another one, which is going to be great, and then it's going to get very painful. Although next week for me is very busy, so I appreciate the break.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, you guys. Thanks for listening. If you're on iTunes, give us a sweet 5-star review. If you're watching on YouTube, give a thumbs up and all that good stuff. Write a comment underneath. That all adds up to something. They tell me. They tell me at content school that this all adds up. But thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for listening or watching. And may that force be with you.